started the recording. I'll share my screen. Perfect. Okay, so we are basically trying to today go through. I think only be able to call the overview level of fasting. So I will not be able to really dig deep. And I feel like learning from a working app that you can replicate on your machine quickly, right? Might be the best way to learn. Okay, so instead of going from theory to taking you building up, I am going from a actual working app and trying to explain how that works. Okay, so the working app that I picked is this one, right? So this is the updates app. So you can install this app on your website. Currently, it is installed on my website. So um, what this updates app does is, looks like I'm not logged in. Uh, if I am, yeah, I'm logged in. My updates. Ah, sorry. So um, I can write some updates. So hello, Swapnil. We are doing a fast and over. Okay. So let's say this is almost like a tweet, है ना? So and now it's there, and it's pretty vanilla-ish CRUD application. You can see these updates. So this is the private browsing mode. May I have opened the same site. So here you don't see the create like the create update form. You only see the updates. There is pagination, so you can paginate also, and you can uh, okay, you can go till the end and so on, right? So this is to create the updates. Now this updates is maintained here. So this update is called its update. This is the GitHub repository for that. I'll share that with you. But before that, let's see some important thing. What is my site look like? So this site is Swift-Try, deployed on Swift-Try. It doesn't have to be deployed on Swift-Try, but it is. Uh, I'll teach you how to do that on other servers. It's actually very straightforward to do it on other servers, as you will see right now. But let's see. So this is amity.com. Okay. So this is the source code of amity.com you're seeing, and every amity.com itself is powered by. It's currently not amity.com. It's amity.fifty.site because of a issue which we'll not discuss right now. Right now, if you go to amity.com, it redirects you here. Uh, so you can do that also. You can have and anyways. So I want you to focus on this particular line. Right, so this particular line is what has added this URL slash updates. So fastn is basically a full stack application, right? So anytime a request, that whenever a request comes, right? So this is right now all the requests going to amity.fifty.com, sorry, fifty.site is goes to this particular fastn package, right? So what you see in this IDE right now is the fastn package which is open, and this request goes to this guy. Now we do two kind of a few different kind of what do you call handlers for the request, right? So one of them is this guy basically tells you that these paths that you see are handled by this particular application. So this is a reusable application. There is a package called let's update.fifty.site. Okay. So the name of the package is this, and it is mounted at this URL. So any URL that starts with amity.com, amity.fifty.site slash updates will be handled by this guy, right? Uh, how it effectively it will recursively be able to do the same thing. It is like the slash have been slash updates ka slash have been handled, this updates goes to this guy. Now let's update will only receive a request to slash effectively. So it has to only solve the slash onward parts of it. Updates wala has been handled. Okay. So there are few URLs. As you see, I have got the Meet app. So currently we are uh, talking to each other on again same URL, the same site, right? Amity.fifty site slash meet slash something. If you see, so that is happening because of this Meet URL. On my site, I have got installed an auth application also, and auth is basically installed on this URL for some random reason. So it shows you I am currently logged in. I can log out if I was not logged in. So let's say if I go to the private browsing, let's say no, this is not the private. This is the private browsing. So I'll be given a option to I can click on this and I can try to log in. Huh?
I can't see your screen, Prashant.
You can't see my screen.
Just like after you switch the window.
I might have accidentally unshared one. It's odd. So I was saying कि this URL I am opening in private browsing. Okay. So here you see in the when I'm using in my when I'm logged in, you can see my basic information. If I'm not logged in, this is the login form, or I can do create account, etc. So again, this entire functionality of account management is handled by this app.
Right, right.
Okay. So I've installed a bunch of three of these apps, and so any request that comes will go either here or there. So I will not look at this app now. We'll look at the updates thing slightly. Now I mentioned that this is the URL, the live URL of this update app, where it is kind of deployed, and this is the repo, right? So you can actually go through. This is the documentation for this. So all you'll have to do is add these two dependencies, and put them as the mount point. So any fastn site can just have these this. You can add these lines, and you will have a updates app installed there also, right? So now let's do the whole thing on our local machine and try to understand what is going on. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I will close the other. So let's update. You'll have to clone, obviously. So I've already done that, and it's here. Okay. So
Yes, we are starting from the scratch here.
huh?
We are starting from the scratch here.
Ha. But we are taking you through how the Let's Update app works internally. But you will doing it on your laptop. So this is the repo. Okay. So if you check out everything, you will have this repo on your machine, right? So this repo contains if you're doing any development this thing, so we have these readmes, etc., hopefully which will help you set it up, right? So
Yes.
so you'll so this is a mini blog whatever. So if you're working with anything fastn, you'll have to install fastn. This is kind of like the only dependency. So this is a single binary. You can install it. So we release all of these binary on our GitHub page, on GitHub. Sorry. So you can download the binary from this releases. We support Mac, Windows, and Linux, right? So you can do either of that, or if you are just using a Linux-like machine, then you can just run this curl command. Up to you. If you trust this, great. Otherwise, for Windows we have installer also, so you can do the setup exe wala standard stuff. You can. You totally have an option of using Rust. This is a pure Rust project. So if you have Rust installed, you can just check out fastn, and it's not necessary, but a lot of times we do it because sometimes the error message is not very clear. So what I do is search for the error message and go into the code, search for it, and that kind of helps
Right.
me figure out what am I doing wrong. So this is not very
Right.
great. I'm not
That is
happy about it, but if you know Rust, that is always available. The code is not too hard. It is definitely big
yeah.
and very with lot of history, so it will take some time to get used to it. The first in code I'm saying, this code should be very
Mm.
straightforward. The code that you will be
Mm.
writing should be very straightforward. So you install fastn, you check out the let's update repo.
Mm.
We ship this script called auto.sh, and we
Mm.
ourselves use ZSH. So most of the stuff that I'll say is really tested on ZSH. It should work on Bash, but from the time to time we
Mm.
might have regressed and it might not work on Bash.
Yep.
So
Yep.
um, so we come up with this script which defines a bunch of functions that you can call all sort all during different this thing. So the most interesting function that you have to call is this one. So now when you are building fastn app, you might be either a UI developer or a backend developer
Mm.
with a
Mm.
different concern. Maybe you are building just the UI. So
Mm.
if you are a UI developer, for them I tell them just run the UI. So if you run the UI, it will not run
Mm.
the entire application. You will not be testing the full stack stuff. So
Mm.
I'll start with the run UI wala thing first. So run UI is the uh, let's look at the run UI so that we can totally demystify it. Also, it's not really doing anything interesting.
Mm.
So before you run the run UI though, you will have to run the update UI once. Okay.
Okay.
So this is kind of like a first time doing the initial setup, or every time you modify dependencies. So if you see run UI actually
Mm.
runs inside this folder. Let's update.
Yeah.
So inside this folder there is a list of dependencies. If you add any or modify any dependency list here, then you'll again have to call update. So this is your update UI. Very
Mm.
soon we'll do something key like it will auto update if this is not up to date. But here we have to explicit step, right? Like just a cargo may, if you do cargo build, it automatically
Right.
also
Right.
fetches the stuff and then builds it. Here we
Cargo
don't have
installer.
that. We are working on that mixed command which will do the. We actually have the command, but unfortunately that is too aggressive. So if you see this offline, it actually is forcing you not to update. If you remove this command, it will always update all the dependencies, which is
Mm.
slightly slow. So I'll and anyway, so you will have to run update UI to update packages and run UI to run the packages. So I will do them. So let's say update. There is update UI. So it is ठीक है. It is
Mm.
it is not too bad also, as you see it normally takes like 4 seconds. So I don't
Less than a
necessarily
second.
have to do this, right? So I can run this command directly also.
Mm.
Uh, so in fact actually the command is just fast and serve this sorry, from the
Mm.
appropriate folder.
Mm.
Let's update dot site. So you can just run fast and serve. Most of the time you're running fast. So you see what happened. Fast and serve actually checked the dependencies and updated it. You can argue this is
Mm.
good enough. It's fast enough. Earlier it was this step was slightly slow because we were whatever, we are not doing it efficiently. Now we can actually ignore this. Anyways, so and you have to open this site because we
Mm.
run multiple different servers. It's like we start them on different ports just to keep ourselves from going crazy types.
Mm.
So we are doing run UI, which is, as you see, not doing anything other than fast and serve with um, a specific port on a specific port, and
Mm.
also it's telling you not to do this checking part. So checking part right now it works fast-ish, but when I'm working
Mm.
for a cafe or other places or whatever, it might not be. So offline is, anyways. So we have started our updates app. So we have started working on this particular app. Package now. So we have, if you look at the repo, there are three folders here, interesting folders. One is the let's update.fifty.site, other is let's update.fifty community.com, and the third is let's update template.fifty.site, right? So this is the all the meat is here. uh, this package is just our like documentation, etc. So you saw that let's update UL site. So this is a site. Hopefully it will become much sooner, much cooler landing page for this application. So this is where you are learning about this application, and this is the marketing page. This is the all of that. Uh, so we are not too interested in this particular site. um, this is a template, so this is just there so that anyone who wants to you know set create a brand new site with let's update already installed, they can use this template. So this is what end user application code will look like. So we'll do all the testing from the template. The important part is the template is not useful for, like, you will not really be creating a site with just update and auth installed, but you will probably definitely be doing all the development testing from this place. Okay, so let's see. So right now you are thinking of building a UI. So therefore we have started the run UI, and we go to this URL. This URL is whatever. So ignore this that is coming here. You can, so basically the application itself is running on this port. So this data is coming from database that you see here, but that you ignore. You're not supposed to. We don't support that, in the sense ki whether the app itself works when it is directly being used, it should work, but it's not the primary thing. So when you are doing UI development, we tell you to do the UI development without dependency on database. That's the important part, right? So for that purpose, we have created this storybook feature. So this is the storybook file. So we basically, every project that we create which has UI, we create a storybook folder also. And what we do is this is so you can see all the various states of this project. So um, so this is so this contains three states, as you see. How does the site look like for the site owner? How does the site look like? Site owner. This actually has a regular page and a feed page. So so let's say this is how the site looks like. You see this iframe, embedded iframe. This is how the site looks like. This is how anonymous users see this site. Okay. So I want you to again emphasize, this is how the feed portion. So there is actually a feed portion which, like the tab etc. is gone away. We have, this is work in progress. This feed thing is not yet live. So we will ignore this for now. And these two are what we saw live. This is WIP. So okay. So we have these three files, and so you have storybook slash self, right? So earlier I mentioned that multiple ways URLs. How are the, so because this is the URL, this is the URL. If you see, or inside this particular thing, this actually self is a URL, right? So this URL that you see is now this URL, and I am basically rendering this particular file. So because the package is running, my fastn server is running from inside this package, and the URL is slash storybook, so that gets resolved by this folder. So this is called folder based routing, right? So a lot of PHP, for example, a lot of frameworks do support Next, for example, of late. So a folder is separated by slash, and then any FTD file का .ftd we remove, and whatever is left उसमें slash लगा दो, तो ये is the URL.
Okay.
ठीक है. So this is, so here the request is going to self, right? So this is the URL that I have opened. So self के corresponding self.ftd I have opened, and And this is a very common pattern, right? You see
Mm.
what is happening here, right? So this is the FTD file that you're seeing for the first time. Um,
Mm.
we have done an import statement. So we have imported this dummy action guy,
Mm.
and then we are using this statement. So let's update it. To understand this statement. Actually, you have to also see that there is a feature called auto import. So we have already auto imported this, added this auto import statement to our project. So effectively, this import statement is in every file now. So we
Mm.
don't want to explicitly write this import statement everywhere, but this is present. This is virtually present because we have auto import added at the package level, right? So in my package file, I mentioned these 3 or 4 auto imports. Okay.
Mm.
So we have auto imported these 4 things, so you don't have to explicitly import these 4. And
And these are going to be part of the app always, like all
has
the apps will have this technology.
no, this is up to you. It's like this auto import is a feature which you will use
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
if you don't
that
want
makes
to
sense.
add an import statement in every file. That's a very common thing for your package. So for example, while I'm developing let's update is something that I really want to import everywhere, because let's update is the
Mm.
common most of the files in my file will be referring to component defined by
Right,
each
right.
other, so they will definitely need this. uh, and the other ones I have added, it's more like a taste thing. I avoided this. I could have. Some of them are there's one important point that I don't want to go into right now. So let's pretend ki this for now, for the current purpose. Let's have auto import is just, you don't have to write this line feature. Okay. So now if you did you say something?
No, no.
Okay. So if you see this statement now, this statement, so fastn, if you look at fastn has this particular grammar. So I can show you the grammar first quickly. So fastn is multiple to more than one level grammar. So this is the phase 1 grammar. So our compiler
Mm.
goes into multiple phases. So this is the phase 1 grammar. In phase 1 grammar, we have basically defined, it's like like HTML has a special, and so on, right? So anyways, so in fastn we have a concept of a section. So
Mm.
a section starts with dash dash. This dash dash is like the section separator or whatever you call it, right? So in this code snippet, what you're seeing is 2 sections. This is one
Mm.
section and this is another section, right? So there are 2 sections here. Each section has these properties. Section can have
Mm.
section kind.
Mm.
Okay. So section kind is optional. Okay. So in this case, for example, the section kind is string. In this case, the section kind is string list, and so on. In this case, there is no section kind.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So every section has a section kind and a section name. So this is the section name. So section name is the only mandatory parameter, right? So section
Right.
kind is an optional parameter. So name must be
Mm.
present. If there is only one word, that would be the name. If there are more than one
Mhm.
words, then that would be the all the other words would be combined, and that is the kind of this section.
Mm. Right, right.
Okay. And then we have this colon. So every section must have this colon, and then after the colon we have the caption of the section, right? So
Mm.
after the colon, the caption is optional from the grammar perspective. From the grammar perspective, virtually everything else is optional. But when you are
Mm.
using it, you might make this compulsory, or this might be compulsory when you are using it, right? So that further
Mm.
rules might come at a language level. So this is purely just the highest level grammar. So this is the caption, and then there are a bunch of header fields. Headers themselves can have kind. So in this case, there is a header kind called header kind, and the name of the header
Mm.
is header one. Here this header doesn't have a header kind, so the name is hello, and header has a value, right? Value comes after
Mhm.
colon. So this is section headers, and this block header you can ignore. We are getting rid of this. Currently, if you want to write multi-line, let's say
Mm.
what if this was too long and you wanted to write multi-line stuff, you can use this
Mm-hmm.
block header concept. But we are changing the syntax for block header, so I'm telling you to ignore it. And then finally, there's each section can have a body, right? So let's say if this is the section, this is the body, right? So body is whatever comes after the header, right? So
Yes.
after the end of the
Now,
header.
now you're basically kind of like telling me how to write the UI app, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm basically telling you what is the basic grammar of Fasten, and then I will
Yeah.
use this grammar when I'm looking at the UI app.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So because you're seeing FTD file for the very first time, I'm basically
Yeah.
just taking you through the grammar. So I'm basically defining some terminologies, and then I'll be using that terminology when we study that file. Okay.
Yes.
So there is body. Body is like this. A section can have subsection. So for example, so section can be a container basically. Like this guy, some
Mm-hmm.
section. In this case, there is an end statement. So the
Mm-hmm.
moment you put an end statement, that automatically becomes a container. So it's the same with HTML, right? So if you have a
Yeah.
img tag which doesn't have an end statement and dash end, then it is like a leaf container, leaf node. But if you put a slash dash section name of the tag, then it becomes like a children. All everything that came between these two became like the children of this, right? So that's the subsection concept. Subsections themselves are optional, meaning that you can put an end also without putting anything in the middle of it. But anyways, so let's come back to our file and now let's look at it. So this particular section, so now you have, if you look at this file has so many sections, right? So this was an import. So this section, in this
Yeah.
case, the name of the section was import, right? So if you remember,
Mm.
because there is nothing here,
Mm.
so the import is the name. So we are actually even considering a syntax like this. So because this guy has a name,
So
so I can, huh?
every fashion file can break it down in sections, right? Like the thing done in
Yes, yes,
section.
yes, yes. So as soon as
That's
you
like the
see the file,
fundamental building block of fashion.
absolutely, absolutely. So this is a building block for, and so now we are discussing the different kind of sections. So
ठीक है.
sections, and so
Yes.
the low level grammar doesn't tell you what is the meaning of import, right? That is the language. So now we are
Mm.
discussing the language itself, है ना?
Mm.
So so language में सबसे पहले you have the import statement. As you see, this is one import statement. In the earlier file also we had a import statement. ठीक है? uh, Here we are, so if you see something like this, meaning that there is some no keyword, no other special word, then this is actually called component invocation. So the most interesting thing is like p, right? So hello, p, right? So you are saying that this guy, this statement, in the simplest version of this guy is like that.
Oh.
Something like this, right? So you can think of this the simplest invocation. So this is the simplest invocation without keywords. So this was actually simpler invocation, but it has a keyword. Import is a keyword, so you know that this is an import statement. But if you
Mm.
don't have a keyword, this is I'm calling something, right? So you can see let's update is user defined thing module, my package, and it's inside that there is something called self package, self page. So self page
Mm.
must be some component. So the component is a UI component that is shown in the UI. So so we have defined this components. If you are struggling, if you looking for at the statement, you are trying to
Yeah.
understand
Let's update.
where is this
Yeah.
going, right? So let's update.
Yeah.
So let's update, as you see, is this module, this package, है ना?
Yeah.
So this is the index file, right? Because there is nothing here, so this means it's the index file. This is the top level
Yeah.
of the package. So the top level package, meaning that this module, let's update, this term actually refers to this index file. Okay?
Yeah.
And inside the index file there must be something called self page defined. So you can copy this and you can search for it. So self page is defined. No, this is not defined. This is being used. So it's actually over here. So actually self page is a component or something which is defined in UI slash self. So in UI slash self, something is defined called self page which is being imported. So over here you can now see the self page and this is a component. So this is how you resolved it, right? You traveled. This is the what compiler is doing, and this is what you'll have to do. We don't have a command click. Very soon we'll have command click in editor, etc. So you would have jumped straight to this definition. But our editor support is not yet awesome. If you use VS Code, you will get actually syntax highlighting, but I am not using VS Code. I'm using this thing. So, anyways, so we are calling this component and which is here and passing some data to it. So what is being passed? All the headers that you see over here, these are like arguments that you're passing to a component. So component is a UI component, and these are the arguments. Okay. So you can see the definition of the arguments. So we have a argument called page. So again, this is the, if you remember this header, right? So header was like each header had a name. So the last word is the name, and the things that come before the name is the type. So as you can see, there are different kind of a lot of variables, component properties I have defined here. I'm not going into the meaning of them yet, right? What is going on here? You can worry about that logic in a little bit. I'm just going by the shape and structure and meaning of this key. I'm just invoking this component with these parameters. Why? Let's ignore for a moment. And what is the value of these? In this, bunch of these parameters are simple. Let's say viewer is owner is defined as a boolean, as you see here. Right? So viewer is owner is a boolean with a default value of false. So you don't even have to pass it, but I'm passing it as true. So I'm changing it. Similarly, I'm passing a feed URL. So feed URL is another stuff which is a string which has a default value. Ignore this function. I'll explain it later on. Then I'm passing page and dummy, right? So page and dummy are, so here I'm using $page, meaning that I'm referring to a variable called page. I'm not, so here I have hard coded the values. Here I'm referring to a variable which is defined over here. If you see, this page is actually defined here. So this is another thing. The order of sections are not necessarily important. So if they are UI, it matters, because in the UI they will be placed one after another, and that order will decide which comes first. But if you are referring to another thing, let's say for example in Rust, if a function is calling either function, in Python the second function should be defined before the first function. Otherwise you will have otherwise you have to call it from the main. Otherwise, so if you call it, so in Python the order of function definition matters in some scenarios. In Java, in Rust, the order of definition of function doesn't matter. In C also the order of definition of function matters. That's why you have the declaration statement, right? That's why we have a header file that tells you, okay, just believe me that there is a function by that name.
Yeah, I think it's like a statically compiled property.
Yeah. So if these were if I was showing two text, the order will matter. But if this guy itself calls another component or refers to another variable, so that order of where the variable is defined, whether it's defined before or after this function definition, it doesn't matter. And here is the most interesting property of fastn, which is contrasted with all other language that you have kind of, or most other languages, which is kind of key. If you do not include this line, if you do, so if, let's say here we have defined this page, so you see the page variable. Okay, so page guy is defined here, which itself refers to this updates, and updates is this entire block, right? So you see updates and end updates. So
Okay, right.
right? So if you see this slowly, so but if you don't refer to this page, compiler will simply ignore this page because a variable which is defined but never used is never reachable, right? So compiler actually doesn't look at variables, it looks at function calls or component calls, sorry. Okay, for when it is
Okay.
rendering a page. So right now this page is being rendered, right? This is the main page. So for every time whenever you are understanding this logic, let's say for example we are reviewing the ye wala URL. So in this case the URL is storybook slash self. So storybook slash self may this module, this file that you see, we also call them modules. So this module has um, uh, so the it has a bunch of component invocations. This is not a component definition. This we are invoking a component, meaning that whenever somebody goes to this page, show them this component. But if I import something, let's say for example over here, if you see there is no invocation, there is just a definition. This entire file is a single definition. So if you go to UI slash feed, for example, you will see an empty page. So the page will exist. You will not get a 404, but it's empty page. And if and here I can do ft.text hello. Okay, so now you can see the hello page, hello term, hello message, right? But you don't see this anything related to this because there is a component definition. But this hello will not come here even though you have done an import. So this is a another difference between Python and us. So in Python, had this been a hello statement, if you have put a print statement, if I import it, as soon as you import this, right, this is executed, that print would have been executed. But here,
Yeah.
because I'm importing this index module and through directly and indirectly this particular module, um, this this component invocations of any of the things that I'm importing is ignored. Only the definitions are used. Okay, so that's the very fundamental this thing, and which means ki our compiler only cares about the component invocation of the main module. The main module is the module which is being
Right.
opened. It actually ignores all the definitions also unless the definition has been used in that component invocation, right? So in this component
Got
invocation I use this dollar page, so therefore it is used, therefore the compiler will check, read all of
Yeah.
these and do something with it, otherwise it would have ignored it. I will not show you the it in this thing, but oftentimes you'll see
Yeah.
there you, let's say for example you would have written this entire list and you not yet referred to it, so there might not have been a permalink, you might have just made a mistake here or whatever, there would not be compiler error.
Yeah.
And only when you put this line statement suddenly tell you this line is wrong because till now
Yeah.
compiler was ignoring it. Okay, so
Yeah.
now you have this component. So this is the one half of story, right? So this is the UI portion. So we are
Yep.
passing. So this component has been written, which needs some data, and the type of the data is well known. So we are all strongly
Yes.
typed language. So this page that you are
Yes.
passing, it is very clearly telling you the type of the page here
Yeah.
is this type.
Yeah.
Let's update dot
Yeah.
paged updates. So you can do the same journey. So inside the records we have paged updates defined, and you go to records and you look at paged updates. This is the paged updates. So page updates is this is a data type. So I'm defining right now a data type and not defining a component. Component is user visible thing, data type is like a struct or whatever. So so it contains optional next and previous links, and it contains a list of items, and list of items is a update, and update is this guy. And technically you could have written like this, but we are writing it like this for a reason. I'll not go through that in this one, that's a little
ठीक.
advanced topic. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
so now, so the data you need can be written hard coded. So that's how this whole storybook that we started
Yeah.
investigating was.
Actually, I want to see like the content of page
I did.
component.
Huh. I think I closed the. Huh. So this is the. So some thought on CDP feed, some thought on CDP feed, right? Update
Yeah,
with only
yeah,
title, update
yeah.
with only title, update with only body.
There's a lot. Yes, there's a lot.
ठीक है. So this is the message, right? So if, for example, let's say if a UI developer is
Yeah,
working, I will set
yeah.
things up like this. I will set up the storybook. I will
Yes.
create all the UIs. These are the main components. Like there is a self page, there is a feed page, there is whatever, and what are the data. So this would be the done by mostly more person who is, and look
More
at this
advanced.
this portion, right? So over here, most of the time you're not going to that page that I said, storybook slash self or UI slash self.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're going to this page. So because this is the page which is requested when I go to my updates page, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
slash updates page. Let's say stop the server. Acha, I'm not running that site. I'm running this one. So slash updates page is this page, right? So
Yeah.
okay. So now how is this working? Let's try to understand. So
Mm-hmm.
storybook guy did had the data hard coded. Let's look at this
Mm-hmm.
also for a moment. Here, this is the index file. So because when you hitting this URL, there is no other part in the this thing. So it is opening the index file. Index file has a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
definitions, feed enabled, and a bunch of imports. It has most interesting code starting from here. So we are defining a, a variable called since, which is an optional string,
Mm-hmm.
which is magical. So there is a processor feature. Processor is how we fetch data. One of the things
Mm-hmm.
that we use to fetch data is this. So this guy is fetching the data from different sources. So we are basically
Mm-hmm.
saying you just get the request data. So it can come from query parameter. It can also come from the post. So in this case,
True.
we are getting it from query parameter. So as of now, this since you see there is no query parameter, I could have done since is equal to, let's say, 10, right? And okay. So now I have done
Mm-hmm.
pagination. If you see that you're not seeing all the updates,
Yeah,
है
yeah.
ना? So this is the since parameter. This is the call. So this no, sorry, this is the definition
And
again.
how was it? How did it know that it's picked from the query, the parameters?
This is the
It
request
was a
data,
query
na?
parameter.
This is the
Okay,
meaning of
yeah.
request data. So request
Yeah,
data
yeah,
is like a magical thing. Is basically telling you get this data from the request.
yeah.
So it basically gets it from anywhere in the request. It will get it, try
I
to get it
understand.
from query parameter. It also get it from the body. If you use
It has
Django
some
ka request,
precedence.
na, Django
Yeah.
had the same
Yeah.
thing request. Request.
ठीक है.
So it's
It has some precedence. It follows that.
yes, 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 exactly.
ठीक.
Um, the second, so we are defining another data here, page variable. We are
Hmm.
creating a new variable called page. So like I said, if there was nothing, then it is a component invocation. If there is a
ठीक.
keyword like import, this is a component definition.
Yeah.
If keyword like import is it is import statement. On the other hand, here we use a component keyword, so this is a component definition. But in this
Uh,
case, we don't have any keywords. So this is the type
right.
and this is the type. So this is a variable
Hmm.
definition. So you define a variable.
Right.
In this case, we are defining a variable. So
ठीक है.
this time we are using this special processor called HTTP. So these processors
Hmm.
are, so this basically is telling you, okay, hey, just fetch this URL, pass this argument to that URL, and
Hmm.
whatever you receive, deserialize into this page object. Okay.
Okay.
So
Can
we'll
you
start.
run this through me again?
Huh?
What is this? Can you just repeat that part? So what is it doing?
So
It
it will
gets the
fetch this
HTTP.
URL. It's basically telling
Yeah.
you, okay, hey, fastn, go
Uh,
fetch this URL.
yes.
Okay. Which will use by default, I think, some of the this thing. You could have specified the method also. I think it's using by default get method. So,
ठीक है.
and you pass this data to it. So this would be passed
Hmm.
depending on the method. It will pass as a query parameter or as a
Yeah.
JSON body.
Yeah.
You know? And this
Which
variable,
was 10 in our case.
this
Yeah.
itself has come from the URL. So
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
fetched the since from the query parameter
Yeah.
and then passed that since to this API.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically an API and this is calling backend. So as you see in this,
Yeah.
there is no folder called backend, but there is a
Right.
file called backend dot wasm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so now this request will actually be sent inside that wasm, which will come to it in a
Huh.
bit.
Huh. Huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Now this is the rest of the page.
Mm.
If this condition was true, so this updates app can only be used on a personal site and not on group site. So I have put that
Mm-hmm.
conditional logic. But the most interesting thing I do is this, right? So this is just basic testing, uh, error check. So I take this. So last time I called this in the storybook through hard coded data, right? So self page. Here also I'm calling self
Mm-hmm.
page. Here also I'm calling self page. This time I'm
Mm-hmm.
passing it the data that I received through the API.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
तो your component guy doesn't care, उसको सिर्फ data का shape पता है कि what will they receive it. In this case I hard coded whether viewer is this thing or not. यहाँ पे viewer को मैंने false किया है. यहाँ पे
Mm-hmm.
the data is coming from my, ठीक है. So authentication, so here I am using the authentication framework. So authentication frameworks gives you this, is handled by Let's Auth. The name of the
Mm-hmm.
authentication framework is Let's Auth, which I have auto imported as the alias Let's Auth. ठीक है.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am using Let's Auth dot user. So Let's Auth package internally has defined a variable called user. The user is
Mm-hmm.
null if the user is not logged in.
Mm-hmm.
So this parameter would be true if the user is logged in. Otherwise, it will be default value, which is false. Right.
Okay.
So this is a now obviously for you to go and learn how the UI is created. We can take another session on that. But I'm
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the name of doing the overview. So in general, I'll go through it.
Yeah.
So you have created a component with a bunch of arguments, and then this is the body of the
Right.
component. So this is the body of the component is
Huh.
almost copy pasted wherever you have invoked the component with the variable substitution done. Okay, so all these
Right.
variables would be applied. So this component is defined in terms of internally uses update page, which is another component which is defined
Hmm.
in this place. So this is the update page component, which itself has some. I'm not really telling anything interesting here. This is very straightforward
Mm-hmm.
UI logic.
Mm.
So a component is composed into, by using other components which are already
Yeah.
defined, and you are passing data. So you are passing data
Yeah.
here. You are doing conditional stuff. Uh, you have links. This is pagination. Not really much to explain other than a lot of code
Mm.
to
Yeah. I think I
get
can
the
read this
UI
better and understand.
functionality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a very straightforward process. This is all,
Right.
let's say Minu does, right, in my HTML CSS developer. This is all
Yeah.
she does. Only modifies these files.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The real logic is okay. What is happening here, right? So what is this guy?
Yeah.
है ना? So
Yeah.
so so
This will be
technically,
jumping into the back end, I think, and
yes, yes,
understand.
yes. So we are kind of jumping into the backend now. But before we go there, let's look at the. We are not running this app like this. So this is only for doing UI development.
Mm-hmm.
You should do run UI to do the UI development. You should do run template for backend development. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is how your end users will be using. So it is best because end user will never check out your package. So they will. This package is a system that you are maintaining. This is a proxy of the end user code. So this is roughly how the end user code would look like. So all testing should be done like this. So so here again we'll understand this. So it's running on this on 8000. This is running. So this is that file. Now this package is being invoked, right? So right now I'm running run template, which has let me just start here, right? So run template is running from inside the run template folder. Okay. So run template. When I go to this, so go to this URL. Now 8000 is my run template. So run template is running, serving this file. So this file is using ds.sitepage. So ds is a design system. It's a package that I've already created. You see design system. So all the packages are by the way available here. So you can actually kind of see their source code and also whatever, right? So here we are using site page, and that is defined somewhere over here, right? So if you're really interested in what is site page, this is also all available there locally. Again, very soon we'll give you command click, so then you can actually go straight to the definition of that component.
Can you take me back to the file that you're showing? It's taking one file back. So this is a component invocation, right?
No, this is a component definition. If you see this,
Okay, right.
you're defining a new component, the name of the component site.
Because it has the keyword.
No, because it has the keyword, yes.
ठीक.
Okay, if you don't have keyword, then it means it's a component invocation, unless it is an import statement. Okay. So I think currently there is only non-keyword, top level, typeless thing. The only typeless thing is component invocation. ठीक है, let's not go into the trying to fully understand the language yet. That would be a little bit of whatever. Now here I'll introduce one extra concept and then we'll move on to the actual listing. So here we have installed this guy as an app, and I have installed it on this URL, but I could install it on any URL. Let's say I could have installed it on this URL, and I want the now people to go to slash. Oh yeah, when you modify fastn.ftd, you have to restart. This is a limitation. All other files you can modify and it will work, but fastn.ftd. So now you see there is an error because there is no updates here. You see there is no updates folder, and earlier there was this is the guy which used to handle this, but now I've changed this URL to up. So if I go back to this, it will now my links are correct, right? So in order for my link to be correct, I have to use this function. So you don't want to hard code the link slash updates. If you hard code the link, then it might break if you change the URL here. So in your code, etc., you should not hard code the link. You should use the app URL function, and you give the relative path and the name of the app. So our system will look at the name of the app and look which app is this, right? So it will look at the name of the app is let's update, and let's update is somewhere defined here. And in fact, actually there is a one tiny, and this is where this guy comes in. If you look at this file, you see there is a name called system defined here. So any package, not all packages are system. Some packages are special. They are system packages. System packages, most of the apps that you're creating are system packages, and there are few other things which will be system packages which are not app. So system packages have a name, and this is the name of this app. So this is the parameter that you pass to this guy. Let's update. Okay. And check my updates, and again if you see pagination, right? So again it's using /up/. So throughout the code base I've used this indirection, so never hard coding the actual URL, and that's why I was saying ki what happens here I don't know. What must happen correctly is this, ki whichever path I put it. So this is, if you give me an app, the first thing I'll do is change the default mount point. So to make sure that all the URL that you have set up in your app are all correctly using this kind of function, so that we know the user can install it on any app, and right. So here we have so these are both my choices. Where do I install auth? Where do I install app? And if this app update app needs to go to auth, let's say for example if you're not logged in or it wants to redirect you to a login page or some other login related page, then it should be able to construct the URL correctly despite whichever path you have mounted it on. So we have created all of these provisions, and that's what I want to do. If a size key, all your testing that you do as a backend developer must be done in the templates folder. Okay. Now as I was saying कि this recursively allowed, so slash updates पे request गया. Now we are looking at um, the this API, right? So backend. So ये backend is
Yeah.
relative to slash updates. Now we are not mentioning slash
Yeah.
updates because this guy doesn't know कौन से URL पे mounted है, तो वो अपना
Yes.
relative URL use कर रहा है. तो इसके point of view से
ठीक
URL
है.
starts with slash, ठीक है.
Hmm.
So this guy used backend, but the real request that is made actually goes to backend updates slash. If you look at the request, let me show you this request using curl. Okay. So if you look at here, what has happened is, okay. So this is what I was telling you. I end up putting a bunch of print statements here and there for testing, but believe me that this is the first request. The first request has come for, this is the full path.
Hmm.
Sorry, full path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the request has come for slash updates. ठीक है. Slash updates has internally called the wasm ठीक है. I can, another way to show that is I can show you, I can curl this one. Curl. So I mentioned this is the backend slash post list. ठीक है. So this is what is happening, right? So this is the real API. ठीक है. So the URL actually starts with slash updates and then backend slash post, and now the routing, you're there, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm here.
Yeah. So is this clear? So this is the request, and all the backend stuff also you can obviously curl and test it through curl. That's how I do actually. I do most of the development with curl first, and once it is fully
Yeah.
ready, I know key what shape, all the data I'm getting in the right shape. Then I move to plugging this processor call. So,
ठीक है.
uh, so anyway, so I will now quickly jump to the backend, right? So now I'm saying the
Yeah.
backend is basically going to this wasm. Now, what is the internals
ठीक
of
है.
this wasm is opaque to us. We don't know what is going on inside
Right.
that.
Right.
Now let's look at how this wasm file is generated. This wasm file
Yes.
is generated using this. If you do the run template, you will see that there
Yeah.
is a this build wasm command.
Yes.
Sorry, here, right? So when you call run template, it calls build wasm. Build wasm calls this script. So we actually uh, build our we run this command build, है ना, cargo build in the release mode with wasm as a target. And if you see, we look at the where the file is, right? So the generated wasm file would either be in the target this folder or this folder, depending on how you have set it up. And this is the destination folder. So this is the destination folder, this folder, and we copy the target to this, right? So every time you call build wasm, this file, this wasm file will get regenerated based on the content of the Rust code here. The Rust code is over here. So you can see the Rust code. So it has a single member backend, which is this folder. Okay.
Yeah.
So the request goes to this Rust package. Okay. So that's the import.
Just one thing, I think I have a hard stop at 11:10. Just letting you know.
Yeah. So
Please
I'm planning accordingly only.
Yeah.
So now request has come to, now this was the request, right? So update slash, so now you know updates has been knocked off. Backend has also been knocked off now, right? So I will
We
also
saw
remove
that
the
part,
backend.
yeah.
So now the
Yeah.
only remaining part is the post list.
Post list, yeah.
Okay, so in this file there are multiple APIs. So we typically put them in handlers. It's up to you how do you organize it. The
Yeah.
interesting part is ki you have to use this macro. So there are a bunch of macros. So we have created this FTSDK crate. So all of this backend that you write should be done using FTSDK crate. So it started as fifth try. You can think of FT as fastn ka short form. We might rename it to fastn SDK or just
Yeah,
fastn.
yeah.
We'll see. So um, so here you have and this is like a magical thing. So in regular Rust programs, you only have main every time Rust program starts. Every CLI or server or whatever you're running, the main is the main function which gets invoked. But in case of WASM doesn't have a main because you're not running it on CLI or whatever. WASM is actually a
Yeah.
library, and
Yeah.
inside the library you call functions from outside, right? So
Yeah.
your JavaScript world will, or WASM is running on the server side. We are using WASM time library package. So WASM time uh, needs some function to call. So it basically looks at the remaining argument and replaces all slashes and dashes with underscores and assumes there is a function by that name.
Right, right,
And
right,
this is globally exported, by the way. So if you look at this
right,
data
right,
guy,
right.
if you look at the
Yeah,
data guy, there is a we put a extern c. You see this statement, extern c,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and this the function name, and then underscore entry point. So we create this. This is your function that you have written, or actually not even that function. So you can study this particular guy. But bottom line is ki based on this, thanks to the presence of this macro, this function name has been used as the name of the library function which is available to JavaScript.
ठीक है.
ठीक है? So that function gets called. उसके बाद में this is straightforward Rust. The only thing is कि this straightforward Rust uses FTSDK. This FTSDK is almost like Actix. So if you see, we are using the extractor pattern. All of these guys implement
Yeah, yeah,
a trait called from request.
yeah. Yes, yes.
So they can be, so you don't have to care which argument, which order they are defined, etc. If you just tell me I need this variable, the extractor pattern. If you want to know the extractor pattern,
Yeah,
Actix and etc. have popularized it.
yeah.
We have some extra innovation we do, which is this. So key name can be encoded inside the type. So Rust has a feature called what is the name of the feature? It's called ADT constant params. So, but this is a feature which is under what is called under development. Okay. So you can create types which take values, right? So you see here bar is a
Yeah.
value, right? If you see, so I don't know what it is going on. So bar dot flag a p. Anyway, so because of some funkiness, we can specify the query parameter using a constant. So we often use that. If you use that feature, you will have to enable this feature called field extractors. So we call them field extractors, and if you look at my cargo toml, I have enabled that feature. Unfortunately, because this feature I'm using a feature, I have to use the Rust ka nightly, because features cannot be used from unstable features cannot be used in the main. So while you're working here, you will have to use the nightly version, but only if you use this extractor. You can say ki in this case we are using the field extractor. So it's handy enough that I am happy with using the nightly. And now, so this is very straightforward part. We are taking data and returning the response, right? Most of the time you are returning JSON response. We have a form validation framework of sorts also. So for example here, for example, you have this JSON. where this
Right.
this text post. So when you create a text post, you
Uh-huh.
need all three bits of data. So
Yeah.
it is automatically extracted for you, and then I am trying to create this dot check wala pattern. So the check will do this, and you can return a single error. So now let's look at the how do we plumb the backend and front end.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are
Yeah.
two places of plumbing. One plumbing you've already seen. This is the
Yeah.
first most straightforward plumbing, which is
Postless
when you
one.
want to fetch
Yeah.
data. The second
Yeah.
plumbing is when you want to do something. So let's go back to our UI and let's look at the self. This is the page, and this page contains this form, compose form. So
Yeah.
let's look at
And
the
there's actions. Yeah.
let's look at the compose form, right? So the compose
Yeah.
form is here. Compose form. So whenever you create a form, you will need a bunch of form fields. So you can use this
Mm.
form field component that we have already created for you. Important thing about form field is key for form field you'll have to use these types that we have already
Mm-hmm.
created a type called string field and boolean field and integer
Mm-hmm.
field etc for you. So these types are
Mm-hmm.
already there. These types are basically record which capture three things. So every form field
Mm-hmm.
has a name, a value, and optional error.
Mm-hmm.
The type of the value will depend on whether it's a string field or boolean field. Name will always be
Mm-hmm.
string.
Mm-hmm.
Type value is t and optional error is optional string.
Right.
Okay. Because we don't yet have generic, so we have ended up creating multiple variables.
Right.
Sorry, multiple types. So you create a variable here. Title is empty, so by default value is empty, so you don't have to write that. Um, this is public field, so the form that you saw, right? So this form is this checkbox is public.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using this form field UI element and a ds.checkbox UI element. To both of them, I'm passing a mutable field. So this pass all other places I was passing something like this without
Mm-hmm.
anything in the front. But if you look at this statement, we are passing a mutable field. I'm not passing this, I'm passing this, meaning that hey, this guy is a mutable variable. So this form
Mm-hmm.
field is a component which will modify any type thing that you type will
Mm-hmm.
be copied over to or whatever will update this variable. Okay.
Okay.
The state of this, so this component doesn't internally preserve the state. The state is inside this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is the first part of it. So when you're creating a form, you'll have to use a form field ds.form field or ds.checkbox. So we have created a few of these and pass them this mutable thing. If you really want to look into it, you have a hard stop. So let's look at this action first. So the most
Yeah.
important thing you want to do is the action, which is submit.
Yeah.
So on click, you want to. So this is the compose form, and I have passed the action. Now you remember, action was a variable over here. So I
Yeah.
was passing the
Yeah.
dummy action versus the real action. So
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this guy is the real action. If you look at it, action. So this guy is the real action. The real action calls ftd.submit form
Yes.
with this
Yes.
URL. And again, you see the same pattern. So this URL
Yes.
is resolved.
It will go to create text post function.
Ha. So it will go to create text post, and whatever data that, so you're passing the title and is public. So
Mm-hmm.
these two bits of
Will
data will
pass
have
on.
be available to the backend to this function,
Mm.
and that's it. Right. So create text
Yeah.
post is called, and it will contain. So the title body
Pretty.
is public. So that's why the
Yeah.
name is important. So the
Yeah.
name is the variable
Yeah.
name itself. Inside here,
Yeah.
if you see the these, so this variable name is public. These names are, that's
Yeah.
why. So this is the value that is passed sent to server, right? So this is the name.
Right.
Huh. So
Right.
is dash public. Again, this is a convention that we use dash. We prefer dash instead of underscore.
Right. Right.
I'll just quickly just take one more second and show you the internals of this form field, and we can just
Yes.
call it done. So form field is defined. It's using design system, and it is a component, and this is a form field which is I think inside defined inside text. Let me search here in the form field. Form field is defined inside input. Okay, text input. So I was saying कि it takes through input, this is the most important input.
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है? So this is a text, sorry, this is the most important input, sorry, string field.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically the text input that you see is basically, you see this as a update as a this thing, and this two rows are actually coming
Mm-hmm.
from that guy. You show the copy and blah blah. Most important thing is this text input, and
Mm-hmm.
within the text input, this is the most important thing, which is your on input. So on input is
Mm-hmm.
called every time the user types something. So
Yes.
we call, and this value is the current value of the input field. So
Uh,
we take form field dot field dot value, right? So form dot field dot field is the variable that was passed from outside, right? This is the field variable which was passed from outside. So actually this
mm-hmm.
component is directly or indirectly accessing that variable and modifying it, right? So that was the title. So this is the
Yeah.
variable that somehow. So it's very straightforward-ish concept, but
Right.
yeah. So effectively, as you see, this is all. So you can do all sorts of stuff in Rust, and you have the
Mm-hmm.
whole crate ecosystem. Obviously, you can't use everything. Only the crates that are compatible with Wasm ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and UI के लिए somewhere I can show it to you, but we are running on short on time. So the component that you see here need not be
Yeah.
defined in your code. They can be defined in
Yes.
JavaScript. If you have any web component, so I'll just
Yeah.
show you the documentation of that. Fastn.com.
I think we can maybe touch on that later, but maybe I can we can discuss about kind of like the next smallest step
Yeah.
that I can take
Yeah, so
to.
we'll stop that from the purpose of this recording. Just this is a public-ish
Yeah.
release, right?
Yeah.
So this will be, so if you have a logic which you can't implement in Fastn for whatever reason, you can implement in
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript, wrap it as a web component. This is a web
Mm-hmm.
component. This is how you create a web component.
Yeah.
Define custom element, and
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
is the name of the web component over here must be the name
Yeah.
of this web component here. That's the
Yes. Yes.
logic, and then you can, and the caller doesn't even know whether this component is in web component or defined
Yes.
in
Yes.
Fastn. So that's the beauty. So caller will not know, and you can easily drop in. So start with Fastn. If it doesn't work, switch to JavaScript for that particular
Right.
component
Right.
only.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
ठीक है, cool है. I'll